Well, hey everybody, I'm Jason with Lemon Branch Do It Yourself, and welcome back. What we're talking about today is what to do if you have a broken sprinkler line. How do you know you have a sprinkler line that's broken? A lot of times, all of a sudden, you'll just start getting a big hole or a geyser, and it's easy to find. But sometimes it's not that easy. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to identify if you have a break in your line, and then basically what we're going to do to fix it. So what we have right here, we're suspicious that we have a break in our line because you can see this is the actual sprinkler head that pops up out of our dirt, and then this right here we're starting to get a little bit of a hole. So what we're going to do is we're going to pop the sprinklers on and we're going to see exactly what's going on here and see if we get any kind of bubbling up. So there's the sprinkler head. So we're going to watch it for just a minute, and sure enough, you can see it's starting to fill with water. So we definitely have a problem with the sprinklers. So we'll shut that off, and now I'm not sure what we have to deal with. We're just going to have to dig down to the pipe and find out what's going on. Okay, we got it down. It's exposed now. This one we didn't have to go very far. And the way this one is set up, you can see the white pipe is the PVC pipe. That's the main water line. And then coming up from that, this is called a T. And it screws into this funny pipe. So there's this little screw 90-degree angle that screws into the T, and then there's some barbs that go on this section here of the T, and then you've got this black funny pipe here that slides over the top of the barbs. I'm not sure what's going on yet, but I have some suspicions that this pipe here, the funny pipe is what they call it, needs to be tight up next to as close as we can get. So I'm not sure what's going on. So now that we've got it exposed, let's go ahead and test it. Okay, so what we have here, now it's buried underneath, but you saw the water's coming out between the joint of the actual PVC. What that means is the glue has failed, and we need to actually dig now to expose this whole pipe. Once we do that, then we'll be able to, we're probably going to have to cut and put a section of pipe in. We'll probably have to redo this T because once it's glued, you can't reuse it. So let's get it exposed, we'll get it opened up, and then we'll see what we have to do then. Okay, we've got everything exposed now, and this is what you got to go back at least this far so that you're able to raise the pipe up. Do you see there's a little bit of flex in it? So that's going to allow us to do some work on it. So this is how the funny pipe works. So it just goes into the bottom of the sprinkler, and then you bury it like this. That way, if there's ever a problem with the sprinkler, you are not technically supposed to have to redo the pipe. But in this case, we had a junction here where you can see how that moves all the way around. It's actually failed on both sides. So this joint here and this joint here, you should not be able to twist it back and forth like that. So that tells me the glue has failed. So what we're going to have to do is cut back, clear back on both sides of these joints. We'll just get rid of all of this and reinstall a new one. We know what we're dealing with now. So we know that the glue has popped and the seam is not sealed. So this is the parts that we need to make this fix. There's two ways that we can go about doing it. So we can do what's the traditional way is just to re-glue it. So you need a glue like this. Is the one that I recommend. There's a lot of different kinds out there. Some are blue color. Those ones, in my opinion, don't seem to work as well, but this is the one that I like. It's usually a little bit more fail-proof. It's OD, and basically it's a two-part. So you have a purple primer, and then you have the actual PVC cement. So how this works is you get these fittings here. So this top row that I've got here is just one example of how you can repair this. You take this kind of PVC, and it's just there's nothing fancy about it other than they're just plain PVC. But before you can actually glue the parts together, you have to use this purple primer, prime the inside as well as priming the pipe. Then you'll put the glue, and then you can fit it together like that. Once you put the glue on there and you slide it together, the glue will set, and you usually have to wait several hours before you can put water through the lines to test things. So the glue has to have some time to set. So that's one option of going through it. Now there's another option that you can get. These are called PVC lock. Now what I like about PVC lock is there is no glue, and if you look at the end of these, they have what it's kind of like shark teeth. These little silver teeth are pointing backwards, and so you will just take the pipe and you'll slide it on. Once you slide it past those teeth, it clicks into place and then it can't come off. So there's no gluing that's required to actually use these. So for this repair today, I'm actually going to use the PVC lock, and I'm going to show you how that works as we just slide things together. The second you get it slid, all slid into place and all nice and tight, you can actually turn on the water and test it. As far as cost goes, you're looking at actually a little bit more if you don't have some glue. If you need to buy the glue, this pack, it's going to run around $13 to $15 depending on where you get it. With all of the parts that you're going to need, it's around $20. So to fix what we're doing today, it's around $20. If you just do the PVC lock, they're a little bit more expensive per part, but overall we're only going to need these here, and that costs about $12. Now, in order to make all of the cuts on the pipe, you're going to need to have a pipe cutter. That's what this guy is. This is just a generic cutter. You can pick these up at a lot of different hardware stores, things like that. Anywhere you pick up your sprinkler repair parts, they're going to have this kind of a cutter. So let's dig in. We'll get that other part cut apart and start piecing this back together. So let's go ahead and get this thing cut apart and ready for the new parts. Now we'll take the PVC cutter, and as close as we can get to these joints, that's where I want to make the cut, so I don't have to replace so much of the PVC. We'll get as tight as we can next to these joints. So I'm going to just put the pipe cutter right in there, and then I'm going to just start the cut. Now you kind of wiggle back and forth a little bit, it'll give you a better cut, and it'll start the blade going through. So as you start, it will click into the next spot. You just kind of, you can hear it click, and then you just kind of go until it pops through like that. So now we've got a nice clean cut on that side. We'll come down here and do the exact same thing on this side, getting as close as we can to that. Same thing, you get started, just kind of wiggle it back and forth to get the blade going. You'll hear it click. Okay, so now we've got that part off. Now we want to deal with this funny pipe. Basically, we're just going to unscrew it. So you can unscrew that. This part here we're going to just reuse. So now that this is open, we can start piecing all of the other new parts together. One thing that I always encourage doing before you start doing any work on the pipe is just take a wet rag and clean up the end so you get all the dirt and grit off of it so you have a nice clean connection. I did that on this funny pipe as well. Now before we start doing anything with this, the first of the video I thought maybe it was this seal here that had popped off and not the seal between these fittings. So what I did is, now that I've got this exposed, I'm taking the opportunity to really tighten that up and get it as tight as I possibly can up next to this funny pipe, so it doesn't leak again, and or have a chance to leak. And I'll do that on both sides and just get that nice and tight. So now I've got that pipe nice and tight, and now it's ready to go back onto the new fitting that'll screw in right here. Before I do that, I'm going to do one more thing. This is called Teflon tape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually put this on and wrap it around the threading of this right here. And I'm just going to do that a couple times. And what that's going to do is that's going to make it so that if there is any place in where this threading goes on, it makes it a nice tight, watertight seal, so it won't leak there even if it starts to come loose. So that's called Teflon tape, and we'll just go ahead and put that fitting in now. So one of the luxuries that we have with the PVC, this PVC lock, is we can just get some of this stuff ready It's a lot easier to do it out of the hole than kind of hanging over the top of the hole and doing it that way. So once we get it nice and tight like this, now we're ready to start putting the rest of the assembly together. First thing we're going to do is I'm going to take one of these cup links and I'm going to slide it onto the existing pipe. Now we're going to work from one side to the other. If you work on both sides and get to the middle, you won't have as much play in the pipe and it won't go tight together. So we'll work from one side over to the other, and so it'll make it easier for us to actually get everything fit back in. So I just take this, and what's nice about this PVC pipe or PVC lock, you just slide it on. Might have to bang it into place a little bit, but once it's in there, it's not coming out. You cannot get that out. So there it goes. You see it slide right in. Now it's in there. That's never coming off. So now what we'll do is we'll take some of this other pipe and we're going to give us just a little spacing in between, and then we'll cut it and put this back so that the sprinkler, we want to keep it in the original location, which was about right here. So we want to keep it right there. So we'll cut a small section off of this, which will go between here and here. So this doesn't have to be too precise, not on this cut. So what I'm going to do is I'll just kind of measure out. If I were to put the two pieces together, it looks like it's about 1 inch. So we'll do just a little bit more than that. We'll go about 1.5 inches, 2 inches. And I'll cut this section. So now that should give me about this much on that side and this much on that side. So we can just kind of slide this piece into the PVC lock again. Just like that. And then we'll put this whole thing onto the other side. Other side here. Do the same thing. There it is, nice and tight. Now we need to do this on this side and then span the width here with this other pipe. So we'll just do kind of a rough estimate here. So we want this pipe to go about right here. Like I said, you don't have to make this perfect. It's not a completely perfect measurement. We'll just go ahead and get this pipe cut. And now we're ready to stick this in to that. Now we'll go from here into here, and then we'll put the whole thing back together. Okay, we're gonna slide it onto this side first, just like that. And I cut it too short. I'm an idiot. Okay, so when we last left off, I did something not very smart and I cut it too short. So the problem with these PVC locks is if you are not careful and you cut it short, there's no way to get them apart. It's a one and done. So you have to really make sure you know what you're doing when you're working with the PVC lock. Now, after another trip back to the depot, I had totally forgot that they had made this. So what this is actually a PVC lock also, but it is actually like a slide. You can actually slide this, so they call this a slide cup link. And so how this works is you loosen this up and then you have a whole bunch of play here, a good 4 inches, that you can slide in and out, and you don't have to be as precise on your cuts. So you still want to make sure you're careful with your cuts, but if you do what I did, this will give you at least 4 inches of play. So how we're going to put this together, kind of the same thing. We're going to still work from one side to another, and so I'm able to reuse one of the fittings that I already cut. So what we're going to do is we're going to slide this back on here. Same thing. Once it's in, it's in. There's no going back. But we'll slide that into here, and then you'll see that this has enough play over on this side where I can extend it if I need to, or I can shorten it. So we'll just start piecing everything together, and then we'll see how this turns out. We are together. Now the sprinkler can go back in its original spot, and at this point we can actually test this. So since we didn't need glue, we can now go ahead and test this. So we are going to make sure that sprinkler head is not pointing towards us. And how you do that, you can unscrew this and then pop it up. You'll see where the hole is. See that groove right there? We want this to spray away from the curb. So we'll put it back in like that. So now when we're testing it won't spray us. All right, let's go ahead and test this now. Make sure there's no leaks, and we should be good to go. I gotta wait for the app to pull up here. Okay, there's the street zone. We'll go ahead and hit test. Okay, it should be popping on now. So we'll just kind of watch it and make sure that there's no leaks. Okay, so one thing that I do like to do, there's a little bit of play in the pipe. I am going to step on it just a little bit. You can see how there's a little bit of play. I'm going to step on it just a little bit as I start to bury the line, just so it stays down a little bit deeper. Even though this one's not as deep as a normal sprinkler line should be. It should be a little bit deeper than this. This one's up a little bit, but I am going to step on it just a little bit, just to kind of force that down, and then I'll bring some of the dirt back on it. Everything's back in. Let's do one final test just to make sure that the sprinkler's positioned where I want it to be, and then we'll make sure it's spraying right and everything looks good. All right, it should be coming on now. So with it up like this, it makes it a little bit easier to adjust this head. It's spraying just a little bit off, so I'm going to just twist it just a little bit, like that. Okay, so that is spraying exactly where I want it to go, and I think this project is finished. So hey, thanks so much for sticking it out with me, trying to figure it out. This is kind of how it goes sometimes, but if you like this, please hit a like button and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.